I can start kind of going over your question now. Um, and let's see. Okay, so you should have your like exercise folder, right?
Right.
And in that folder, you should have like a PDE file and a data folder,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
That data folder links, like processing knows that whatever's in that data folder, we're linking that content to that processing file.
Okay.
So similarly, like we could have all of this content like in the same folder as the PDE,
Mhm.
but it's just sloppy in the sense of like it's harder to find your file.
Right.
So it's usually better just to have everything in that data folder. So if processing can't find the file, the first thing you want to do is double check that you have the right name of the file, right? So like none of mine say background, but you might have changed yours to say background.
Yeah, I did. So I have a separate folder for mine, my code and like what pictures and stuff I want to put. And it's still saying that like that's what I'm saying. Do I have to put it all into a data folder maybe for it to recognize that it's there, or
Well, where is that content right now?
it's in a folder in the master folder? Well, it's just titled master folder, just in a regular one.
So it's kind of like, so you see on my screen, I have this master folder on my desktop,
Mm-hmm.
and then under here you have just like, um,
Oh, okay.
you
Within your master folder, you have the processing exercise.
right. So whatever, if this is your final project, right?
Mhm.
So maybe might make more sense if I just do this. And
Because it
not
works when I you do the exercise, it worked. Like I could get the sound, I could get everything to
yeah
work.
yeah yeah.
Try to write it myself.
So and I'm just going to cover this. So if you guys ever have to rechange the name of your final project, and I keep saying final project, I mean like project three. You wouldn't just change the name of the file because that's going to mess things up. You would open the file, you just go to File, Save As, and you change the name. So I'm just going to save this just for clarity of what we're doing. Um, so you kind of are replicating it for your project, not the exercise.
Hmm.
So I'm going to call this like um, project 3 master folder. Putting that on the desktop. Inside of that, putting my full name, test, um, test project. Okay, so I'm putting that on there. I'm saving it. Boom. And that actually transfers all the data and everything. So now, where is this? I thought I just put it on the desktop. Oh, it got hidden. Okay. So here's a master folder like what you would be having, right? Underneath that master folder, we should have your project folder,
Right.
and under the project folder, that's where the PDE is, and that's where you'd have your data.
Okay.
So your content that you're going to be opening up in processing has to be in the project folder
Right.
somewhere.
It is.
So yeah, as long as it's in there, then the next step you need to be doing is double checking how you are named. Like, is it's case sensitive. So did you put a space in there somewhere? Did you put a capital letter in there somewhere? Um,
No.
you want to reflect that back and forth,
Mhm.
and so if you double check that, make sure that's not doing anything.
I mean, I've only tried to upload the background image that I made from Photoshop, and yeah, I triple checked everything. It's not
Okay, yeah. So do you wanna just screen share?
sure. Let me just figure out how to do that. Real
And as we get into more complex things, it might be a matter of having to upload versions to the Google Drive and then let me know that like, oh, Bernard, I have this question. It's already on the drive. Can you check it out? But I don't think we're that complex yet.
All right, so here's my code on the left.
Yep.
This is just the exercise. I was just having it open, and then here's my folder. This is has everything there. And then I tried it as a PDF. It didn't work, and I saw yours as a JPG, so I remade it as well.
Why does yours say out of space for those?
I have no idea. It says that for each one. Even I think it's just talking about my iCloud storage.
Oh, okay. Weird. Okay.
Yeah.
So the file background.jpg is missing or inaccessible.
Oh.
Can you open the JPG?
Have I opened it? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and open it right now, just to double check. Okay, that's no problem. Why don't we try this? Drag and drop that JPG into your processing window right there.
Right here?
Yep. Oh, yeah, and it doesn't even... One file added to the sketch. Hit play now.
So try it now, you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, so oh, now we're getting...
There's a little box with nothing in it.
Well, do you have a draw set up? You have to go down and look at that.
No, I don't have anything else.
Oh, well, okay. So you should be good now. The problem is that I think you might have two different files or folders you're working with. So you might want to just double check, like where...
Okay. This might not be in this folder, you're saying? Yeah.
Right, so...
I think it's in this one. Okay.
Yeah, that's a problem I see quite often. So you just want to make sure you know which folder you're working from, and kind of like you could even do right now if you know this is like your good file, just do a new file, save as, delete the other ones first, do a file, save as, and then you're good. I see that sometimes. That's why I was like, oh, just drag and drop and let's see if that fixes it.
Yeah, okay.
Because you have a file open, but you're looking at a different folder. So.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying now. Yeah, see, it says it's already in here. I guess I'll just replace it then.
Yeah, you could have the same name, but you might have opened, I don't know.
Okay.
It's a weird conundrum.
That's a good trick to know, just to drop with the image.
Well, yeah, until you make that understanding like of how you're organizing your data.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I don't know how to end this.
At the bottom, you'll so for screen sharing, it's okay. I can just hit mine.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. So, does anybody else have questions? Like they're stuck on something? Because like in reality, when we're starting these projects, I would say that for normal classes, there's probably like of a whole 20 people, there's probably like 3 or 4 people who completely are kind of still confused and they don't know how to start. And then there's probably like another 2 to 3 that are also confused and don't know where to start, but they don't say anything for a week. So I think one of the weird things about right now is that we're on this like new medium, so nobody wants to interject here. But we could always put in the chat thing too, because yeah, I want to make sure today everybody gets started, that we're using our time effectively. We do have time to work on this project as of right now, but what you guys will find is like the start is going to be the toughest. Like getting the hang of organizing your own code, and then being able to understand examples, so then you could start, bringing more stuff in.
Someone, I think Sydney asked about how we're
Oh,
supposed to add it with the project too. I also had that question. So
thanks. I gotta minimize my okay, here we go. Oops. Sydney, I'm confused from the instructions for turn in. Are we supposed to incorporate the audio from project 2 into this project? What Audacity folders are we supposed to be submitting with this? So the audio project, that's a good question. The audio project 2, I'm going to be grading that on its own project. So the only things that I grade in terms of audio for this coding project are how well do the audio components that you use pair with interactions to make like a more meaningful interaction. So I'm not actually grading the quality per se. You know, it's not like you want to be thinking of things of like, well, I'm going to click this little, I click this one button, it makes a sound effect. I click this button, it makes a sound effect. I click this button and it makes a 25-second long audio track. And it's like, well, why does that one make a really long track? It doesn't, it doesn't pair well with the interaction, perhaps. It's kind of those things. That's what I'm really focusing on. So you don't need to be turning in Audacity files for Project 3. You'll just be turning in. I just kind of restructured it a little bit. So maybe what I really probably should have done is just separated Project 2 and Project 3 instead of having them on the same project page. But in reality, yeah, you can just utilize all the sounds from your Project 2. That's probably more ideal, if they pair well with your concept. Totally use them, right? Because then you made the whole content, but it's not a requirement. So I think hopefully that answers the questions. Okay, so yeah, as long as that answers everything. Does anybody else have questions?
if we would like to add our audio into the processing part, how does that work with the audio player command, I would say?
Same way as what you're doing with images.
Okay.
Yep. So first thing is you put them in your data folder, the audio clips you're using. And you'll get an error if you have a specific file type that processing doesn't like. I'd probably be sticking to like MP3s and what else? I think AIFF works.
We use AUPs from Audacity or no?
No, nope. Just that's a project file, not an audio file.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I would try and stick with just using like MP3 or AIFF. I think Wave also works actually.
Okay.
I think those three. But yeah, so as long as you have the file in the data folder, then you just have a shorter kind of concise name, and then you're using that name to kind of in place for audio player, and then whatever name you want to name the file in processing, and then using that name to load that particular file name.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, it's really just utilizing the exercise as a template to see how things are organized, and then you're kind of replicating. So yeah, it'll take a little bit of time of trying trial and error of probably replicating that process until you figure it out. But yeah, that's the big goal today, is everybody should get to that point of getting a preliminary outline set up, of like maybe your background's there. You start getting like a navigation going. I mean, everybody's doing. I haven't even gone through all the project proposals. I still give you like freebie points for just doing it, but those are really just for you guys to set in stone what you're doing, so you have a clear idea. Pairing those with your sketches, so you can start off right now. Yeah. So, I'm doing a good ramble, guys. Anybody else questions? I think I want to use class time more effectively here. And rather than just having you guys chime in, I think what I'm going to try to start doing is kind of doing consultations. So, if you guys... I was just talking there and I forgot my mic was off. So I want to, I think I want to use this time a little bit more effectively. So what I'm going to do is do a couple of consultations here today, because we still have 35 minutes or something, right? I want to get through maybe like 4 of you guys. See how you're starting right now, see like what you got so far, and kind of go from there. And then everybody else, they could either, you could decide to follow along with us, or you could just keep working. It's kind of up to you. So I guess first of all, does anybody have questions they want to go first, or otherwise I'll just kind of pick people. And then on Monday, I'll start off with, asking any overviewing questions as well, but then I'll continue kind of going through this process of asking for doing individual consultations. Nobody?
Right. So sorry. I just.
You have a question?
Are you asking us if we want individual consultations, or you're telling us that's how it's going to be?
Yeah, I'm telling you guys. Rather than everybody sitting quietly and just kind of poking around, I want to see how everybody's doing, because I know that I can give you guys recommendations and advice on how to structure things, what things are working, what are not working.
Gotcha.
I've taught this class enough times where I've got like 50 different student examples. So if you're trying something and you can't figure it out, I can always like put one of those examples on the Google Drive and then share that, and you guys can look at that. So it's really not, I don't think it's going to be really effective for continuing these classes like this where everybody's just silent. So I'm gonna pretend as if I'm there in person and I'm coming up to you, and we'll just go over it, and then this way, and you'll screen share, and then this way, if anybody else wants to watch, or maybe they hear the similar problem, then they can tune in and kind of follow along. So it's not really trying to put anybody on the spot. It's more along the lines of making sure you're continuing forward. So and again, it doesn't really matter how far along you guys are. That's not the big thing here. It's making sure we're moving forward. Did you have a question, Peter?
No, that was my question. Was that you answered it?
Yeah. So with that being said, does anybody want to go first before I pick somebody? And you guys can't hear like background music happening right now through my mic, can you?
Oh, sorry, that's me. my roommate.
No, okay, I can't hear yours, and apparently you can't hear my roommate either. He made a gym in the basement, and he's blasting music, so.
My roommate just woke up and is making smoothies, so there's a smoothie maker going and blasting music, so yeah.
There you go. Okay. Well, I already seen Peter's a little bit. He's just getting started earlier. I'm just gonna, I guess, go top down. First one is April. And I know April came in the first today, so April, if you wouldn't mind throwing your mic on and then we can get your screen sharing going and kind of walk me through what you got going on and I can give you some tips.
Fucking go in the garage and I smell butane. I'm like, fuck, torch is fucking leaking.
Oh, good. That's not good.
No, I just disconnected it. Because I was using it, and then I closed it. I closed the valve, and then I'm like going in the garage like, good thing that thing has a smell to it, because that would be bad.
Hello, April. This is the next conundrum, I suppose. Everybody will not be there or be silent. Who next? Brendan, are you there? Are you present? Sweet. Oh, I hear something. Brendan, I think you put your mic on.
Sure sounds like the mic is on.
Yeah, it sounds like he's typing, but I guess he doesn't hear me for some reason. Well, I guess I'll just end up making a schedule for next week and go through, and then we'll abide by the schedule for certain times. And then if people aren't there during those times, we'll just I'll have to put participation points on the line or something maybe, so people actually are here and participating. Alright, well, I'm going to go ahead and mute Brendan then, because that's silly. Sydney, are you there? Cool. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to check out, see your screen, see your code, check out what's going on. And then if you want to throw your mic on, you could walk me through kind of what you're trying to do, and I can give you some thoughts.
So I'm still photoshopping stuff for my project right now. I haven't
okay.
started any code. I'm just in Photoshop right now, making a bunch of images to use. That's as far as I've gotten.
Okay. So, and that's not a bad way of working. I guess the one thing I could have reiterated on at the beginning of class is really just to get some kind of base content ready, and then just start a structure. So what is your project based on?
You just cut out. I heard what is, and then you cut out for me.
Oh, that's good to know, because somebody else has mentioned that I've been cutting out, and I don't know why. What is your project? What's your parameters? What's your?
So it's gonna be like a wall of like doors and cupboards, and like when you click on them, like they make a little sound, and then it takes you to like another image. Basically, there's one big door with a lock in the middle, and one of the other doors will have the key for that door in it. It has to get dragged to it, and the mouse leaves like smoke behind it. So like when the mouse moves, there's smoke. So like it clogs up the screen and makes it harder. So it's like that. That's basically the whole thing. I'm just photoshopping all the cupboards into a wall right now.
Okay. Have you coded before?
Not really.
Okay. So, the smoke thing, it'll be a little interesting to get that to pull through. I do have an initial thought for it. Maybe based on a timer, and you can activate the timer to start whenever. You can increase the rate if you make an integer that would be the rate of the timer. But then using that timer, then you can trigger when maybe different overlays are appearing. And the overlays could just be like transparent smoke images. But as you go and as time progresses, maybe that just fills more and more of them.
Yeah.
The only conundrum to that then though is oh well wait no yeah because there's different ways of drawing, right? If you are drawing the background in draw repetitive on repeat, and then you turn on say smoke number 1 or smoke A, and that'll be in the top left or something. If you ever wanted to turn that off, like you go backwards for some reason, you just stop drawing it, and then the background would cover it up. So I think that would be a good solution. So it's not really like artificially generated based on coding. I think it's more along the lines of like just setting up a structure that you're kind of fooling us that it's doing something when it's really just going through.
Yeah, I'm more worried about how maybe I don't like the whole thing with the key. Like I don't know how to put theoretically put the key in the cupboard in the code, so like you can use it to open the door, to drag it to end. I just want to once you drag that key to the door, I want it to go to an end screen, oh, you did it or whatever. But I don't know how to
Yep.
code it to keep the key in one of the cupboards.
Yep. So I haven't followed through that process too much on my own. There are students who have done it. They did their own work, and I never had to help them with it. So I know there's examples. I'd have to go look at them.
Yeah.
But there isn't mouse dragged features to be able to take content and drag it over. There's also the ability to maybe you have an image of a key, you click on the key, and then the key image disappears, but then your cursor becomes the key.
Oh,
So instead of a click and drag, it's more of just toggling things on and off. And so then if your cursor is the key, then if you click somewhere else correctly, then it would execute the next thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense.
So there's a couple different ways about it, and they're going to be different ways, obviously. It's just kind of deciding what you want to try to do and then finding the examples for it. But I think, so kind of stemming to your point here, you're just building out content, and maybe that's a bunch of people, but what I think everybody should really focus on is not trying to build out everything for their project right now, and just build the first thing we're going to be seeing. So if that's a background or what have you, is what's the first thing we're going to click on or keyboard press on, and maybe one element of audio, and then start piecing those together. And once you have the first types of interactions working, then you could build in and then this goes to another scene, and it's kind of one step at a time. That way you're also keeping fresh with the code, which can be a problem if say you spend a week and a half getting everything prepped, and then you start coding, number one, you'll probably forget a bunch of stuff and you have to relearn it. But number two, you might end up prepping all the content the wrong way. So that's what I would suggest is, that's kind of what I mentioned at the beginning of class, but yeah, I'd kind of put a pause on building everything out and just start off with the basic and get that working, so you stay fresh.
Makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, and I hope everybody else kind of is following that thought. Talking to you, Brendan and April. Okay. So yeah, and then maybe we can touch bases again on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Thank you. And then next one down, Dylan. Dylan, are you alive? Yo. Let's yeah, and then after Dylan, I'm gonna poke at Emily. So I guess maybe letting you guys know who I'm coming after next. Yeah, Dylan, if you want to get if you got code started, get that up on the screen, or we can take a look at what's going on. And oh, yep, go ahead.
I just have
You're a little faint, your microphone. Are you there? I think I heard a few vowels from you, and that's about it.
I don't know. I don't know. It should be working.
Oh, I can hear you. It's just you're saying you're screen sharing them?
I have like 2 lines of code.
Oh, okay. So you haven't really gotten through starting everything.
No, I'm like getting images right now and photoshopping.
Okay, so it's that same kind of boat.
Yeah.
Yep. And I guess to reiterate on that, because it seems like multiple people are in that boat. That's what I was really. I guess that's really what I was referring to last class in terms of, and on the schedule, getting some stuff gathered for today. So it's good that you're building that out, obviously. And I'm not calling you guys out individually, but keeping that in the back of your head, that you kind of, in a sense, are like a half a day behind or something now. So just trying to make sure you're keeping up with the schedule. You're on your own, and this is everybody, right? Making sure you're keeping up the schedule accurately, because as time goes by, it does the work does compile out, and what I'm trying to do, I guess, is making sure people are starting. Everybody's got the basic steps down today, so that you can keep working through the weekend effectively. That's what I would urge you guys to do. And I haven't had anybody coming to my office hour time either. So, if you guys don't have code going in class, and maybe just kind of finalize something. It doesn't have to be a final image. You could just save any JPEG. The nice thing about this process is that if you save like an image called background.png, you load that in. Anytime you want to update that, you just go into Photoshop, you make the change, and you save over top of the same name. You just replace it. And then it's already loaded in. You just refresh the code and it'll be the new image. So I don't think you guys have to dwell on thinking that you need like the final version of everything right now. So that's what I'm hoping everybody kind of shifting that mindset to. Okay. So good. Thanks for chiming in. I just want to keep seeing where everybody's at. So we are on to Emily.
Hey.
Hey, are you at the same place, or how are you doing?
I was actually also just kind of like messing around and seeing like with the exercises still to like see how things interacted and such, but like now I understand like we're like breaking it down, and I was gonna get started on actually like seeing like working like on the first part, like you said earlier, of like the first thing that we were gonna see.
Right. Okay. Yep.
So I wasn't like quite sure where to begin, like actually, because I've never at all coded a day in my life.
Yeah.
So I was still like messing around to see how things interacted, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. And I think that is a good approach that I mentioned before in terms of like, okay, we hit play, what's the first thing that's going to happen? And starting there, you know, and getting yourself kind of a platform. And even just getting to that point takes, you know, some understanding too. So as soon as you get that, you kind of, what's the term? Not refresh yourself, but reassure yourself that like, oh yeah, okay, now I'm getting it. And then you kind of go to step 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have any questions about that process yet? Or are you just kind of diving in still?
Not quite, because I think like, I guess I want it like for my project, like I was thinking of doing like a, I guess kind of choose your own thing, but it was like kind of basic in the sense of like when it's like the same idea just with different images and different like, it was like find this person's hat or find this person's sword type of deal, but it was like different settings. So it was gonna be all basically the same thing, just different images.
Where's Waldo?
Yeah. But like the beginning scene is like choose your scene that you want. So like I guess it was just, you know, working on figuring out how to like when you code like, okay, this person presses on this, then it takes you to that scene, I guess is what I was still messing around with.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and I'm just trying to get down to see how you're laying this out in your mind. So adventure, different worlds, page-based linear.
Yeah, so like you'll have like the opening, like I drew it in my sketches, but it was like a opening page. So like the first thing that you see, and it'd be like kind of like, I was thinking 4 different worlds, but I don't know if that would be like too hard to try to navigate along the line. So if it came down to it, it'd be like 2 different worlds that you could choose.
Yeah, it's always good to have like ambitions, and then obviously we're just starting at the base and scaling our way up. So
Yeah.
the first bit will be like getting one world working, and then that works, and maybe a second world, and then you're like, oh, okay, well now maybe I need like a cover page that gives me maybe instructions, or it's a start button, you know, like a welcome page, and then you get that, and you're like, okay, now I can add this like this mindset of like, okay, collect the 3 keys, and then maybe you add one more world or whatever, and after you get the first done, kind of chunking out the bits for the next one starts to make more sense. So
Yeah, and like I was like trying to keep it at least a little bit easier for me since I've never coded, and making it very like similar.
Mhm.
So I think like once I finally get like, you know, the home page kind of down and working out one world and getting one world working, then I definitely think that like creating a second world will be a bit easier, and then so on.
yeah, and let me take a pause real quick. I'm gonna look for something, and then maybe I can chat with you a bit more. Somewhere on this Google Drive, I have something useful. Okay, so I'm hoping everybody's paying attention here right now. I'm going to tell you all something. On our Google Drive, if you all want to head to the Google Drive, our class folder, there is a folder there called Other Files. And inside that, I have not only that example of like extra credit. And again, I don't even know if anybody's doing extra credit at this point. I haven't heard, I haven't heard of anybody because everything's closed and nobody's talking to me about doing things beyond that. So I don't know. Anyway, on this folder, this other folder, there's a bunch of different examples. And I kind of wish my buddy's not sawing in the basement right now. But that's happening. I'll have to go yell at him. There is a bunch of stuff here for you guys to check out, and these are common tools that you all should be able to harvest, I think. So, you're not going to use all of them, but the one that I'm thinking of in particular for you, Emily, is the random number example.
Okay.
So I'm going to download that, and then I can screen share and show you something. But class is almost over, so I guess there's no sense in harassing him down there. Why is this not opening? Here we go. So I just built these out. I mean, the processing website has a lot of this stuff too, but this could be maybe a first resource if you guys are looking for something. Let's see if I just play this. So it looks like we are just changing the value of the background based on a random number. And the number is to 100. So if we go to 255, let's play this again. This should be frame rate 3. How about frame rate 20 or something? I don't know. Okay, that's looking more so. Oh, random. Wait, hold on one second. I don't remember writing this example. So, I guess let me step back and refresh myself here. And then once I figure this out, I could tell you why this is pertinent to you. So I don't think we really need I right here. So this might be a little bit of a overkill example. And this doesn't have to be float, this could be an int. Oh, I guess it does have to be a float. Okay, I'm going to save this and then re-upload this.
Okay.
because now it's stripped down and makes more sense of exactly what's going on. I don't know why I had a another thing going on there. Let me delete this. Random number. Okay. So, okay, the new one's uploaded. You can download that and keep it for reference. And if you want to add notes to the top or whatever for yourself, you can. And then if you want to just check out my screen, I can kind of walk you through the logic here.
Okay.
So this is just a regular setup like we're doing normally. This is like a regular draw. For the example, I've changed the frame rate to just 3 instead of 60, so you could like better see the change happening. And all we're doing is changing the background color. So as you kind of probably remember, a background, you could just have like one value, and then that's just grayscale. It just shows up in gray, you know? However, instead of a number, we could always put in a variable that's changing. So in this instance, the variable we're going to make is r, which is here.
Mm-hmm.
And normally, like at the top, you would set up r. So it doesn't really matter where you do this. So like if I put float r, and then down here, you wouldn't need to say float r. So if that makes it easier for you to understand, but the key here though is that we are randomizing r, like we're setting a new value of r to r based on the random function. So you could always like, you know, find this in references if you wanted to read more, but basically if you just put one value in there, it's going to scale any random number from 0 to 255. So this is just a quick way to say, okay, we're going to take this random value and kind of embed it inside of this character, and then anywhere we use that character, so such as right here, that value is going to go to that character. And
Okay.
To mind you though, it does show up as a decimal point because it's a floating number. So in general, does that little exercise make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm thinking is, now I'm having a little bit of a brain fart. Hang on a second. Oh, okay. So yeah, where's Waldo kind of theme, right? Or treasure, and you win. So the reason that I'm coming up with this is that if you set up this scene and you have these objects on the screen, and we have to click on those specific objects, the problem then begins like, well, after you play it once, you know where they're at, and then every time you play after that, you're always going to know where they are.
Right.
So then it kind of becomes like, well, why do I want to replay it again?
Right.
Which is fair, right? This is an intro project. But if we're thinking about it kind of from the beginning, and we can kind of potentially plan for it, this could be a way to start embedding like a variation in where those things show up.
Okay.
I don't think I've done this before myself. This is more along the lines of like, normally there's a way of coding this where it's more advanced using like that object-oriented stuff I was talking about. But I don't think you need to get that far because we're just dealing with a random number. So if you set this random number and just for the sake of argument, it's like your random number is, you have a random number set for like Waldo's X location and then another random number for Waldo's Y location. Okay? And then what you could do is only have it set to randomize one time, and you set the value of between, however wide your canvas is would be the X. So if it's 1,000 wide, it'd be like 0 to 999 or whatever. Same thing with the Y. And then what you could then do is only allow that randomized function to happen one time. And then once it randomizes and that value is set to, Waldo X, Waldo Y, you could then draw your image to that random location. So I hope you're kind of following, in a sense that each time we start this, you're drawing your image of your object could always be in a different spot.
Okay, yeah.
So it's a little weird to think about, but I think what that logic could work for. I guess the first thing is like getting the background up, getting the image up, making sure it's like loading. But then the next thing I would start taking a look at was like that the second tutorial we did on Monday.
Okay.
Because why is this not the whole tutorial? Here. Oops, I don't want that open. Oh, again, this is just the beginning. That's poop. Yeah, bear with me a second. I'll download this and I'll show you what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Exercise 3. I didn't make this exercise on this machine, so I have to download the completed version real quick. All right, so right here, this component we went over on like the mindset of like a timer, like a sand timer.
Yeah.
Where you start something, or I guess the better way to phrase it is, this thing of grow is only happening because resize was 0.
Right.
So you could use that mindset of some kind of switch, that when the switch is open, you randomize a number one time. Okay. And then once, maybe it goes through only once. So right there, you could say if grow is then equal to 1, which would be the very first time, then resize is 1, which means like grow would never go past 1.
Okay.
And if I just grow equals I play this, it sounds terrible. Resize is 0, grow should be, that's funky, let's try it again. Now it's growing. 2. Huh, I don't think we need this. Oops. That's still not there. Always a little bit of trial and error on something. So now it's working on 2. Let's go back to 1. Right. So, this isn't exactly perfect, but it's kind of getting you in the mindset. I think really what it would end up being is probably like a if grow does not equal 0. So at the beginning, this this grow is 0, but then after we do like, you know, grow equals random 1 to 55. Oh, because it's not a floating number. Always something. Float. I realize this is a little hack and slash, but I'm just kind of showing you and seeing then if you could figure it out. And if not, we can go over it again. There you go. Do you see this number here? So that number 120 is a randomized number. So similar to like what you would want for a location for an X value, Y value for an image. It goes through this gate, meaning like, okay, currently the value of grow when I start this is 0, but I don't want it to be at a location of 0. You want it to be at like, you know, between 1 and 1,000 or whatever. And so you would set those parameters of like the minimum value that you would want it to be and the maximum value. And this is all, you know, shown on the random reference page. So you could either have one value in there and it's like, oh, just a random value of that, or you could set the minimum maximum. And then as soon as that happens one time, then you set this other condition saying, well, if your grow is no longer 0, if it doesn't equal 0, meaning if this has been done once, then you turn this switch off, right? And then this name right here, whatever your floating value is called, that's then what you would use for your location.
Okay.
So every time you hit play, it's always going to be a random number, you know, between 1 and 999 or whatever your canvas is. And then this would be like, you know, where are you drawing your background? Well, it could be you're drawing this image of a menu, but then you're going to draw it at location grow, you know, whatever your names are.
Right.
So does that make sense?
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense.
So I think that's probably the first way to try to go about it, because and maybe you just start off with 1, you know, maybe you don't do the X and Y axis. Maybe the Y is always at 50, and then you try to make a variable, which it has to be a floating number variable, and you get that to just randomly set somewhere on the screen up and down, right? And yeah, then I think it's just a matter of like getting some crazy background and then designing a character or whatever your thing is, and just having that thing the same color, the colors of the background, and it'll be like working out. And then the next parameter will then be like, well, how do you know where to click to like succeed in clicking on that thing?
Right.
So that'll be like the next bit we get into, but we could talk about that next week.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah, cool. I mean, class is over. It's been over for a couple minutes, but yeah, everybody's good to go. Unless somebody else wants to check in real briefly, I'm cool to hang out for a few more minutes. Otherwise, too, maybe the good parameter or the good get out of my code speak here. Maybe one of the good things to do would be just spend a few more minutes today in between if your other class time and get some basic thing happening, like a back. What are we going to see first? Are we going to click on something? Are we going to go somewhere? Get those things outlined, get them started, and then if you can't start them, then probably give me a call or text me even during sometime today and let me know that you're going to come to my later office hour or whatever. Then I'll just get on, and then whoever's in the chat room will kind of go one by one or whatever. But yeah, this will make sure that you guys have like a basis to start with, so over the weekend you could do a little bit more. So sweet. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Adios.
Okay. Let's see here. Chili. Need some heat. Oh man, we're looking pretty. We're only like half of our class right now. I'm gonna be sending out some emails today, checking in with people who have not been here. Yep. So, hope you guys all got my email about the schedule. How I've gotten that all updated. So I'm gonna kind of go through what I decided I'm gonna be doing for these work sessions, and maybe I should wait just a minute or two as people come in. So yeah, today is a work class. You can kind of keep working on stuff. I am going to be going over what I'm kind of expecting you guys to be working on, so that we're using our time the most effectively. After, kind of went through with the first class and realized that a lot of people are in the same boat, so no, I'll just wait another minute here. Does anybody have, right off the bat, does anybody know that they have questions about their project or like coding in general? Or specifically, I mean. You could totally change it, that's fine, yeah. Change proposals, it's, yeah.
I had started trying to figure out the coding situation and stuff, and I kind of was having a lot of difficulty importing an image into the thing, make a button out of it.
Okay. Yeah, so I can go kind of recap the process, and then if things seem correct, then we can kind of just screen share or troubleshoot, you know. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? I'm just kind of wanting to get a show of hands. You could even put in the chat if you want, like, you know, if you need help or not. I mean, a lot of people probably have been like, oh, it's a work day, I'm just going to work today. And I know they kind of know what they're doing, but I guess I'm really more specifically wanting to know about, is your concept not fully mapped out, right? Or, so I could help you with that, or you have no idea how to start structuring the code. And some of you might be like, well, I don't even have my content yet. Okay, that's something I'm going to be talking about. But that aside, do you know how to start your code? So that's what I really am trying to see, how many people are in those boats. I'm assuming probably 85% of you, but only one has said something, so.
I have like a good basis for mine, but there's like some things that I'm sure I'll probably have questions the more I work on it.
Totally. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, because what I hope to do today is give you guys an overview of like the rest of the semester, how we should be working on this project. Go over people's questions that initially have some questions, and then these work sessions are going to be, we're still going to meet like this. You guys can for the most part, if you don't have a question, you can keep the page minimized and just kind of listen in as you would a classroom, right? You're working on something in a classroom. However, I'm then going to be going down through and doing consultations with people. So you all have turns sharing your screen and going through what's going on with your code. And I know a lot of people aren't at that point today, and that's what I'm going to be talking about. But just giving you that insight that I don't really want to just sit here idly and wait for you to come to me, because I know that a lot of you should be making progress, and a lot of times what happens is people don't structure that workflow the right way. So I'm going to go over that today. So I think this is pretty much most of us right now. So yeah, I'm going to get into it here a little bit. So first of all, is anybody here wanting to still do some kind of extra credit essay? And I'm not expecting people to go out. I'm just wondering, does anybody still want to write something? Because if not, then I won't even talk about it. Okay. So essentially, yeah, I realized like it's probably not wise to be really going anywhere. So regardless if it's gallery hours or not. So what I'm really letting you guys do is just come up with your own more or less your own kind of proposal. What I'd prefer you guys to do is find some sort of like live, what do you call it? Virtual, kind of like a virtual exhibition. And I haven't really been looking through those, but I know they're existing. So in reality, it's kind of trying to get that mindset of looking at stuff and talking about stuff, but more in kind of the structured framework of things together with one another, rather than just like, oh, here's a painting, I'm going to talk about this painting. It's more along like an exhibition in terms of how are they piecing all these different things together, like if you were to go to someplace live. So I'm not really, obviously I'm not restraining it to just MFA shows. So it's really whatever you want to do. Everything else is still applying. You'll still want to, get a writing center appointment online so you can talk to somebody, have them help you. And I will, I let somebody else know. The first extra credit is set on the schedule to be on Monday, the 13th. So that's what you should be aiming for, to get it done. And obviously if you're doing it and you're having struggles or you need to talk to me about it because you can't get it done on time, you got to let me know. Okay. If anybody else has questions on that, you just let me know. So yeah, first thing I wanted to go over is on our Google Drive, under the class folder, there is this other shared files folder. And what I like to do is I like to put shared or zipped files of examples in here. So this is one good spot to start if you need some examples of how things are working. Obviously we already did scene navigation, but this is like potentially another example. Particularly, for instance, if you guys know that you want to have a button, say on your main screen, you want to have a button that goes to another page. Well, in that exact same spot on the next page, do you want that to be a spot for another button navigation?
Do you have the example for project 3?
What's your question?
Do you have the example for project 3?
Project 3 example?
Yes, in the Google Drive.
Well, these right here are just small individual examples of how to do a specific thing. So that's why I was really letting you guys know of these, because you don't have to go through tons and tons of code to find out the little piece that you need.
Okay.
That's what I'm showing you here. However, yes, to your point, right on our class website, if we scroll down under the hyperdata, there is the, or where is it? Down here. I don't know why I have this separated, but anyway, the past student projects are here. That's helpful, but the one conundrum is like, how do you guys know which things to be looking at? So that's really where it stinks that we weren't able to meet in person and talk about everything, everybody's works, so now I don't know who's doing what yet until I start to look at your projects. But as you guys come up with questions of how to do something, I can then say, oh, look at this person's past student project on the drive. It'll give you, what you need to work with. Because otherwise you're just downloading random files and you're not sure what's going on. So that's why I want to start doing these consultations to see what everybody's working on, how they're starting out, problems they're encountering, that sort of thing. But I really wanted to let you guys know that these other shared files are here, because these can be helpful starting out. So, that being said, I think Kenny said you had some questions first, right? I think we'll.
Yeah, I was just having trouble importing the image into my code.
Yep. So, kind of recap that. So the big thing you want to just make sure you're doing is having the actual image in the same folder as the processing file, right? Or in the data folder that's also in the same file. That's like the biggest step. You want to make sure it's in there. And then once it's in there, you usually want to keep like a concise name that makes sense to you, And case the case sensitivity is important. And then once you have that down, it's just a matter of going through, putting in this P image with the name, loading the name or loading the image, and then where you want to use it, you have to draw it. So I know I just went over it quick, but I guess if you wanted to review those pieces, you could, or if you're not sure what's going on, you could always screen share and I can walk you through stuff.
Wait, so after you put it into the under like void setup, then you also have to put it into void draw as well?
Yes. So yep, I'll walk you through here. So at the top, where we're stating like declaring things, these are kind of like everything above setup you think of as like global variables. You're setting up names, right? Yep, so this P image is like letting processing know, hey, I'm going to be using an image and I'm going to call that image menu. And then down in setup, you have to tell the program where are you loading the file from to be using for that menu, right? Then once that's loaded in setup, you could then use it anywhere after that line. So for an example, one syntax to use is background menu.
Oh, okay.
And that'll just put it over the entire background. However, there's also the other alternative way to look up files, right? Like if you need to get some more info on a particular thing like this background, you find in reference. And then the other option should be here, image, which stinks that it didn't link it at the bottom. That's silly. You can go to processing.org, go to references, search image. That is not helping either, is it? Weird. Well, I guess I don't have that as an example for you guys anywhere. I thought it was listed right on this website here. Okay, maybe I'll make a quick example or something somewhere. But realistically, you could also put down a slightly different syntax for placing an image, and that's just image and then what image you want to place. So I'm going to place menu, and say you want to put it at location 400, 250, and you want the size of the image to be, I don't know, 500 by 300.
So, and those numbers are X, Y coordinates in the size of the image, the height and length?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and you don't have to have all the parameters. You could just have two, which would just put it, place the image wherever you want it. But then if you had two more, that's also then going to scale it where you're placing it. So This will be the same exact thing as we just had. But actually, I'm going to put this in draw just so I know that it's going to be working. Yeah, see, because we already had a background in draw. So if I place it right after the background, it's in theory going to place it on top of, this mini menu is going to place on top of this menu.
Okay.
In theory. So let's see if that does work. You see?
Okay, thank you.
But I don't really know why my shapes are so big. Anyway. Yeah, so a couple different ways of using images depending on if you're using it for a full background. Things to remember, a full background, it has to be the exact same dimensions of the canvas. Otherwise, you're going to get like a null point exception error. Whereas these scaled images, you won't get the error because you're kind of specifying the dimensions. Yep. Okay, yeah, keep me posted if that's you're still having trouble. Anybody else running into coding problems or like concept realizations? Okay, I'm gonna I didn't do this last class. I've been taking just screenshots of who's here, but I'm gonna take attendance on my sheet because then I'm gonna be able to keep better track of who I'm checking in with today, and then on Monday I'll keep going on other people as well. I think this will help me make sure I'm helping everyone equally. And I'm just kind of developing this on the fly, so bear with me. Yeah, and fun fact for everybody, I'm softly moving for a while to my parents back home. So I got a lot of nice fun of like moving crap around the next few days. Gonna go like quarantine myself for a while in their house until I'm good to go. So it should make for an interesting week. Today is the 1st. Okay.
So I have a question here.
Shoot.
Yeah, do I have to use the Project 2's audio for the Project 3?
Good question. Somebody asked that last class.
Okay.
Yep, so kind of revisiting what I explained before, and in reality, I guess when I changed the organization of the class, I probably shouldn't have like thrown you guys in with that confusion, and I should have broken both projects up separately, so that it makes more sense maybe. But essentially, project 2, I'm going to be grading separately for everything you did on that project. So for project 3, you don't need to be submitting Audacity files to me. You're just you could reuse all of everything you made if it matches your project, right? It's pretty awesome to be able to use your own created audio. It's not a requirement. So you could be using whatever you want. I will say though that there are points that I give on this processing project that are based on how well the audio pairs with the interactions, and that's kind of exactly how you would think of it being, right? If you click on, one button on a screen and it makes a sound effect, and then you click on another button on the screen, it makes a different sound effect, and then you click another button on a screen and it plays like a 15-second long sound effect. And while that's playing, like you could still click on the other. So like that really long one might not make sense for a sound effect, right? And it's those kinds of things you want to be thinking through. Like how well is this situating to what a user is interacting with, right? How it's interacting. So yeah, I still grade like components of audio, but it's not, you don't have to use Project 2.
Okay.
You could,
Thank you.
yep, you can hack and slash whatever content you want. Let's see. Okay, I'll keep taking attendance here. But yeah, if anybody has questions, you could always shoot them out. Okay. Oh, that's why. Has anybody been using Zoom in their classes?
Yeah, online, another class.
Which do you prefer?
I mean, same thing.
Same thing. Okay.
Both work.
Yeah, they only finally announced it to be used, like a day or 2 days before, or like a day or 2 days at the end of break.
Yeah, it's a little rush.
So it didn't make sense to try to use it, and of course, there's more features on there for an instructor, which is like, damn, why don't I have that option? It allows, and they just emailed me today about that. Like, oh, maybe you should use that. Why would I want to switch now?
Yeah, they both work. Both work.
Yeah, the one nice thing is, I guess on Zoom as an instructor, I get to go in and see who was present and for like how long and for all those kind of things. So it's an easier way to take attendance and then also know who wasn't here so I can check up. That's one big thing that they're wanting us to do, is check in with people who might have been skipping, to make sure they're okay and they're caught up, and because it's tricky right now. Yep.
Like 15 minutes to get into our like video session, but Zoom I get in right away.
It takes you 15 what?
15 minutes. Like I got in right before attendance. Like my computer was connecting for that long.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
That sucks.
And yeah, I know it's happened like every class I've missed. So like I feel like I've missed so much.
Oh, well, that's not good. Okay. So in that regard, like I might have to be looking into switching. Do you have the app then? For this?
Yeah, I downloaded everything. Like I have Zoom and WebEx, but Zoom just like is really fast.
Huh. Have you tried to like delete WebEx?
I think I did, like, and I also try to restart my computer and everything, and it just like doesn't let me connect fast enough.
Weird. Because to my knowledge, you're the only person that's had that so far.
Oh wow.
So it seems like it's more like an isolated, probably thing happening on your computer. Do you think you'd have time to like contact IT services?
Yeah, maybe I'll try it.
Well, because yeah, if you want to do that and then follow up with me, because if it's something that's going to continue happening and you can't resolve it, then I'll definitely look into getting the other platform if it's going to be identical.
Okay.
I just
Thank
don't.
you.
Yeah, I just don't want to do it for one class and not the others. So if it's if it's an ongoing thing and we can't resolve it, then I can just figure it out and then try to switch all of my classes over to it.
Cool.
But there should be. Let's see. Recording students. Here's the number here. Do you see it?
Yes, I do.
Yep. If you want, yeah, just write that down and then you can give them a call.
Thank you.
Yeah, it should be pretty. They should be able to get you going. I know you were having problems at the beginning of the semester with other stuff on your computer, so who knows? Maybe it's like there's a multitude of little things going on, but at least see if they can help. If not, just email me. Keep me posted. Okay. 12. Right. Okay. So this is everybody. Guess I'm gonna use a highlighter. Maybe not this, maybe. Okay, and I'm not gonna call anybody out for any other reason other than I'm just gonna go down this list, whatever order your name's in. So you can thank your parents. So first one up is, I guess, does anybody else have questions? I think I mentioned that a few times, but if nobody else has questions, I'll start going down and checking in one at a time.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Like, I have the idea for my project 3, but I don't know how to start it.
Okay.
Yes, I know.
Yep. So why don't I forgot one big thing that I didn't talk about. So I want to give everybody a little bit of direction first, and then we can I could dive into your proposal, your sketches, get a sense of what you're trying to do, and then give you some thoughts.
Yes. So I did the exercise, and I feel like I still don't get it.
Yeah. It's understandable. I can walk you through it.
Like coding stuff.
Yep. Yeah, sometimes it takes a few times sitting down until you use it for your own reasons rather than like something that I made, So yeah, we could talk about it. I forgot, I just gotta mention one thing. So yeah, if everybody wants to tune in here just for a moment, you don't need to look at my screen, but I want everybody to kind of get a sense of what I'm hoping you guys are, like, your workflow is going to be for this project, because I see it happening every semester, and normally when I'm in person, I'll sit down with you and I'll walk you through it, but I want to just give everybody this overview right now, and then as you're working, you can abide by that structure. So a lot of times what happens is, by today, I wanted everybody to have some content made so that you can start working on the project. And by working, I mean like coding, right? Getting some coding started. And the reason for that is that I'm here to help you, not to show you how to use Photoshop or something, because you already know how to use Photoshop. I'm here to help you if you walk into problems with coding, not sure how to get the coding going, that sort of thing. So I know a lot of you probably didn't prep any content, and if you did, kudos, right? Like, you're gonna be on track. For those of you who didn't, you're already starting to slip into that boat of getting behind. And not that it's a bad thing, I'm just letting everybody know in both classes of mine that I really make this schedule laid out so that you are keeping up with yourself. And it's gonna be more important that you do on your own now that I'm not there to see, everybody's work. And I'm just gonna try my best to have you do screen shares for that purpose. So what you guys need to realize is that the goal right now, starting out, shouldn't be to design every single piece of content you're gonna make, that you're gonna need, and then start coding in like a week and a half from now. You wanna start coding today. And that means you need like a basic single image. You need maybe one audio file, maybe 2 different backgrounds, whatever your concept is that you're working towards. You start out the very first thing, what we're gonna see, and you kind of keep going and adding on things from there. And so what I mean by that is you don't also need to sit in Photoshop right now for like another 45 minutes because, oh wait, your background's not done that you're going to use for that first thing we see. Well, as soon as you have that Photoshop file, you're saving that, you're using that as you go along. All you need to do is know what dimensions you're going to be using for your canvas. And then you just need to export some file as a template, and you call it like background, you know, like menu or whatever you call it. You get that loaded into processing, and then if you ever have to update that, like if you wanted to make changes, whatever, you just go back to Photoshop, you export and you save it over top of the old version in the folder for your processing data, and then it automatically is updated in your code. Does that make sense to everybody? I'm hoping, right? Like you're saving over top of an old version. So it doesn't really matter that you have a finalized version of all the content. The big thing now is to get started with the coding. I guess you can kind of think of it as like writing. You know, when you want to start writing, you really don't know how to start. It's probably kind of what's going on. You're kind of procrastinating on that. And it happens the same to everybody. And I'm trying to take the time to let everybody know that you shouldn't get in that boat. Kind of going back to that philosophy that coding is another language. The best way to learn a new language is to keep up with it, like learning a new instrument. So that's my advice today, is just to get something started, start working with placing images or whatever your structure is. And then as you run into problems, you know, yell out, I'm here. Or as I'm going over another student's project and they're having a similar problem, you know, tune in and watch and see what's going on, and then you can implement that. So does that make sense for everybody, I'm hoping?
Yeah, it makes sense. So I feel like I can start the background for now.
Yeah. Kind of use that tutorial we went over if you're thinking about like visual based kind of pages or whatnot. And so, okay. Who is started with code? Let's go over that, I guess.
I got like a background and a rectangle. That's it, as far as I've gotten.
Okay, and do you know where you're going forward with from that?
Yeah, so I guess to explain quickly, I wanted to do like kind of a paint kind of program, just like an art, kind of redraw stuff, and it was supposed to be where instead of just drawing like lines, it was going to be like little images, but I still wanted to figure out if that was even possible. But yeah, I'm just getting the background now and just...
Yeah, I'm not sure about the images, like smearing an image basically.
Yeah, well, more like pasting little ones.
Well, you could definitely click and place it. That's doable. The actual I'm not so familiar with the click and drag feature of mouse pressed option. So what's that?
Sorry to cut you off. Keep going.
Yeah, no, because there's different mouse features. So the one I'm not super familiar with is like clicking and dragging, and so I'm just not sure if that's feasible or not. But we could take a look at it. And so
I mean, the clicking could work too, just like the stationary clicks. I mean, that could also be doable.
I do see what you mean though. Like clicking and dragging could be really cool for like that smear effect.
Yeah, in a perfect world, that's what I'd like it to be. But I could always do like the research, just try to see what I could do with that.
Have you coded before?
No.
Perfect, that's fine. I'm just curious. So the first thing we will want to be looking at is the mouse stuff. And looks like here is the option. So I'm assuming you want to click and drag, right, to draw it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be this dragged option on the website. And actually, I'm going to look at processing examples. I'm not sure if there's mouse stuff in here or not. Whoa, pointillism? What is this?
Kind of cool looking.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this is abstract or if it's actually making a picture. I have a feeling that it's abstract, but I don't know. Anyway. Moving on, there is input, easing, mouse functions, mouse press. Click on the box and drag it across the screen. Okay, so that's kind of what we want. What if we turn this background off? So that's kind of it. The only other thing is an image now. So what if I'm just gonna make a demo test here. And I need an image, so I guess I'm going to use this image of a turtle. Okay, and I'm going to set up the image in here. Let's type this out. Turtle equals load image turtle. PNG. So, looks like the only thing in here is this is drawing the box. So if I change this to image and turtle, and I keep the exact same stuff, does that work? Did you see that?
I did, yeah.
I feel like I have accomplished something today. Does everybody see how awesome this is?
That's exactly it.
Interesting.
Yeah, this is actually, did I lose it? I actually have a book that covers this. That's kind of just like fundamental image processing history, you know, and this is one of the things about that. So, so I'll go ahead and save this. And do you guys see, did you watch the workflow I just did, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, so realistically, we just had this problem. We needed a mouse drag. I knew it was on the website. There's like this a little bit of explanation of what's going on, but I was like, well, maybe there's an example for it. So then we went to processing, went to examples, found the example that has the rectangle, and then I was like, well, do we need the background? We didn't need the background. We got rid of that. It still worked. Well, if we can do it with a square, why can't we do it with an image? And just kind of integrated an image. And all we found out was this one line, they literally gave us comments, right? Oh, this draws the box. Well, we don't want it to draw a box, so I commented it out. But we still wanted to utilize the dimensions that it was using, right? So, I mean, and you could tweak it from here. You don't need to have it a square like this. You could go in and figure out what components are making it to be like that square or whatever, you know. Because
Could I just go into Photoshop and make like an image, but just give it like some transparent background, and then would it make it not a square?
yeah, what I'm getting at is all of this stuff in here that's like, so this is the location of the X, this is the location of the Y, and then for an image, right? Because you could always go to find a reference in an image. And this is, it's telling you A, B, C, D. And what is this stuff? It tells you. So the first dimension's the X, the Y, and then the width and the height. And so since we know that, then we put an image, we put the name of the image we want to be drawing. And I think, so this will work for you based on different images. You want to get it working once, set some parameters, kind of keep working, and then we could talk about ways to like how sometimes I want this image on, sometimes I want a different image on, right? And that logic of like which one do I want on is kind of over the example we already did in terms of like using a gate like this. You know, if resize was on, or if if something is set, then do something. So this is an example I did with somebody else about a random number. But anyway, kind of like making a gate, right? You set a condition, and then go ahead.
With the random numbers, can I do the same but have like a random image? Like I could have multiple images, and then when the mouse is clicked, it could be one of like 3.
So yes and no. The one way about that would be doing like a for loop and setting up a for loop. That gets into a little bit of trickiness. For loops are really good for like setting like a bank of things, and then you could just cycle through them. I'm a little rusty on it myself because I don't do concise code like that. And it almost might be better for you not to think about it as well.
Yeah, I'll stick with the simple stuff.
It's simpler, but it's also longer.
Yeah.
Like and I think it can be important to do it that longer way though, because you form these connections in your mind of what's happening, and then you can go on later down the road potentially and build up those like simplistic, oh, we don't need all that. We can just simplify it. So one option right here could be if you press the key, like the A key, you'll get this turtle will be an option. If not, then something else would be an option. And let me see what this is doing again. Right, so it's only moving when we're dragging it, when we click and drag. I just have to walk through the logic in my head here. So I guess this could be a really simple example. So we have this thing, void mouse pressed, right? Well, what if I did something like this? And this is like something you would want to be thinking about yourself. How do I solve this problem of like, oh, I want different images to be happening. So I'm going to kind of walk you through this. I'm going to make a new integer. I'm going to call this like counter, if I can spell. And it could just be 0. So counter is something we made up, but we could use it for something literally like a counter. So we could say counter plus plus. So it's adding to itself. And we could do this. And when I do this, it doesn't matter where I click, it's still adding to that counter. Right? So the problem then is like, well, what if I only want 2 images right now? I click the first time, it does one. I click a second time, it does another. And that's not how you have to have it work. I'm just saying like, this is a way to then start to...
Preferably that is how I'd like it to work, actually.
Yeah, I'm just kind of like getting you thinking like, well, if we can get it working one way of changing an image, then we can see how that's working, and then we could alter the ways in which it changes, depending on preferences. So a counter keeps going. Well, what if we only want it to go from 0 to 1? It counts up to 1, and then if we click again, it goes to 0. So actually, I'm kind of, I already had this example. I'm trying to think. There's a more concise way to write it. And I'm trying to just think it through here. Something about like multiplying by a negative number or something like that. But anyway, if we do it the long way, if counter is greater than or equal to, or no, if it's greater than 1, counter equals 0. So if it goes after 1, it's just going to go back to 0. So let's see if it's working. It's 0, I click, it's 1, I click again, it's 0. Okay, so it's working, on, off, on, off, on, off. And that's just in the void mouse pressed, right? Because mouse press is only happening once every time we click. So in theory, this is only happening once every time. So the first time, right now, like before I started this, right, it's 0. When I click the first time, it goes to 1. And if I click a second time, technically this is 2, but the next line of code is saying, well, if it's higher than 1, return it to be 0. And that's what's happening. So if I go really fast and I exit this out and I look back up, you don't even see the 2. because when you click, mouse press is doing everything here all at once before it spits out the final components to to the RAM, if that makes sense. So now that we have this toggle of like click once it's on, click the second time it's off, now we can decide what we're doing here. So maybe the first time we have a rectangle draw, the second time we have that. So we'll have something saying if counter is equal to 0, draw this. You know, and then you could put a else statement, but if you're gonna have more than 2, you just do the same thing. If counter equal to 1, do this. Okay, let's see. Not particularly smooth. So it kind of just depends on you know, getting it in, playing around with the options. So instead of clicking, you could potentially just like you know, press
Could
it.
you run that one more time? I'm sorry, like the whole thing just clipped out, like your audio and everything just froze up for a second.
Okay, where did you hear me last?
Just right before you're about to actually run the code.
So we knew the counter was working, right? Like the 1, 0. So now that we have a counter, we could use that as a variable to use as a gate to then decide like, oh, do I want this image being drawn or I want something else being drawn, right? So it's just this mentality of a condition. And so I just set up a simple condition that's saying, if the counter is 0, draw the rectangle. If the counter is 1, draw the image of the turtle. And that's what we're seeing here.
All right. Now I understand.
Yep. And then, you know, you can play around with parameters and get some trial and error and figure out, you know, like, well, why is the turtle square smaller than the other square? You know, I'd have to keep looking at it, but everything should be here. It's just a matter of isolating and kind of figuring stuff out. So
would that just be resizing then, just based on like the images?
Yeah, but you see here that we're resizing by box size, which is kind of like a rectangle. So we have to go, you could do like a Command F and search, you know, box size. I think it was already right there, wasn't it? Box size is 75. If mouse X is greater than BX minus box size, so there's like, then well, what the hell is BX? You see what I mean? So I think it's a little bit more in-depth, like looking through the example and seeing.
Yeah, never mind. That does go pretty deep.
It's not that deep. It's just a matter of like, you just figure out what's going on. So this is just math. Box size is 75. What's BX? What's BY? I'm assuming they're like XY values. We could look up here. It doesn't give a value for BX, so we just do BX. Width divided by 2, which is just the width of the canvas. So it's literally just like half the size of the canvas. Oh, so you literally could, yeah, you could literally just get rid of this and just put whatever you want. They're kind of going one step deeper in a sense of as an example, but let's see. So what if we just did like, get rid of this BX. Get rid of this BX. bx, by. Okay, play. Oh, so we can just set whatever we want. 75. 75. Right, so and just numbers. Of course. More stuff. And this is why it's helpful to have those integers, because then when they affect one another rather than, you know, oops, left hand. Ah, okay. We're offsetting. So we probably should keep the bx, by. But we don't have to do math right here like we were doing. Let's see. Oh, we do have to do math. Look at that. We're back to where we started. So it's doing math because it's offsetting based on your movement. So it is a little tricky to the point. But it's all based on math. So if you wanted it to be like a rectangle instead of a square, right here you could set the initial values. So like bx is width divided by 2. You could then say like plus, 100 or something. And then when you do that, well, I guess in theory it should be working. It's not looking like it's working. It's just a matter of playing around with things and discovering how the code's working. So it is layers, actually, to your point.
I'm prepared for the learning as I go kind of style.
You are, or would you say you are, or you're not?
Well, because like even when I started today, just by kind of getting like a basis of the code that I'm just starting off with, it kind of made more sense with like when I kind of started from scratch.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll just see how it goes.
That's all we can hope for. Okay, saving that. Okay, that's uploaded so you could download it. All right, who's next?
You.
You're welcome. Can you guys make fart noises with your hands? Okay, well, if nobody else has questions, I'm going to start going down through, checking in with peeps. And I'm gonna try to limit things to like 15 minutes if I can. In that circumstance, I took longer, but at least now we have an example to use. Who's first? Caleb. Caleb, you're up first.
Yeah. Basically, I haven't really started coding yet. I'm still trying to get content together and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So I mean, like, once I like start getting into coding, I definitely think I will have questions, but I don't have any like coding questions right now.
Okay. Do you know fully through what you're going to be doing?
Yeah, I have a pretty good idea. So basically, when you like open, it's gonna be like an interactive program or thing where you open it. The user will be like building their own landscape basically, and they'll start by picking a background, and there'll be like a bunch of different options for that, and then they'll be just like plain backgrounds, and then they could choose like plants, animals, or like any different things that put in like this landscape basically. And so they'll have like tabs at the top, and then have like a background tab, a plants tab, an animals tab, or like a others tab. And then like when they click on each tab, like it'll drop down to all the different options, and then they'll just go through each tab, and there'll be a bunch of different options to choose from. So does that like sound doable or like good?
So yeah, let me walk through, see if I get it the right way. Oh, picked up that tissue in good timing. So the way I understand it, we open it up, we see like a landscape of a hillside or something, and we have menu options at the top that allow us to have different features that we can be painting or stamping onto the canvas.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, so there'll just be a bunch of tabs at the top. When they first open it, does there have to be a background, or can it just be blank with like the tabs at the top?
Wait, can you repeat your question?
So when the person using it, when they open it at first, does there have to be like something in the background, like a landscape already, or can it just be blank with like the tabs at the top?
It could be blank. It could be like just a menu or a welcome page or something, something like that. There's no set requirements. It's just whatever you think is making sense for what you're trying to do. It could be simple like, oh, hey, this is, create your own universe game or whatever. There's also the ability to then save an image from your canvas. And it's a really short piece of code, so that could be nice to plop in at the end. I am not sure I've actually had anybody utilize like a mouse stamp feature. But what's that?
What is the mouse stamp feature exactly?
Well, there's nothing like code called mouse stamp. But I do have another student. Is she in this class? No, she must be in the other class. I have another student that's doing basically the same thing. So, I think she's in the other class. Yeah. She's in my 11 a.m. She's looking to basically do similar kind of project. So once you guys are developing, and you get some notes going, I can give you guys, each other your emails or whatever, and you can kind of work together in that regard. But the things to be checking out, I suppose, so we can take a look here now, are the mouse clicked, which I think we used, right, in our exercise. We used mouse pressed, but similar thing, mouse clicked. I think either one would be working. They're very similar. The conundrum here is that you would want to be using a cursor. So cursor right here. And this is like what you're going to be building your kind of trick off of, like the magic, so to speak, is what you'll want to be doing is not be redrawing the background in draw. So whatever landscape you're going to decide, right when you click or mouse press or keyboard press, what you want to have on the background, that'll just draw the background one time and then it won't keep repeating. And so that would allow you to then, anytime you want to place a new image on top, you just draw a small little transparent PNG wherever specifically you want it.
Yeah.
And then it'll appear to stay there because the background won't be redrawing on top of it. Right? So that's kind of the simple intro logic to that. The conundrum then is, if you are constantly drawing the image where your mouse cursor is, it would be like leaving a trail like we just seen.
Yeah.
So the way around that is, if you use a mouse cursor, you can set an image in here. Cursor is an image. And once the cursor is an image, that'll give you those parameters for showing an image where you want it, and then you'll have to just link how you're going to be drawing that transparent PNG image to where you're clicking the cursor. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you're kind of giving us a false illusion. Like what you're dragging around is a cursor, and when you click, you're actually placing an image.
Okay.
And you could use the same image for the cursor and for the clicking. It's just that's kind of what's will be going on under the hood. And then based on your menu, the way you change what your cursor will be, you click on an option, that'll change the cursor. And once the cursor is set to that, wherever you click, the program will know that we're going to be stamping that particular image because that cursor is selected. So it's kind of just you're predefining things, and we're saving it into memory as it goes. So I don't have the full mock-up of that for you, but the first thing we'll want to take a look at is to see if there's an example like we just did in the last one. I wish there was a search option here, but clock image control. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Let's do file save as. Bummer.
Why is it not working? What's there?
So it looks like we can't give it more than 2 parameters.
Okay.
So the size is going to be it's going to have to be fixed. Or you can set. You just change the scale, resave that, put that in as a separate image type. But like you could pick like small, medium, large, or something like that. I was hoping that we would be able to. I told her that we might be able to just use like a mouse cursor to increase, decrease like the stamp, but.
Oh, okay. Probably can't do that.
No, so what we'd have to do is, let's see, cursor, image demo. Why don't we do one. Image size 50. Save. Okay, it's kind of like that workflow I was just talking about. We just saved an updated version. Should already be in there. Oh, it is not going. Interesting. Let's see. Out of bounds. Interesting. Turtle PNG. Now that's weird. It was just working. Index out of bounds exception. It's really weird because previously it was working and it was like expanding outside of the canvas even. It's like, how is this even working? And now that it's small enough, it won't. What if we just put turtle? Oh, okay. Weird.
Yeah.
So that works. And then we could also do
So now the image follows the mouse until you like click again. Right?
this is based on location right now.
Oh.
So if it's mouse X is greater than 50, or sorry, if it's less than 50, it's a cross. You see how the size is only 100 pixels wide?
Yeah.
So if we're over 50, it's going to be else. It's going to be a turtle. So this is a simple parameter, but like you might not have it based on a mouse X. You might have it based on something else. The point here though is like you're just telling the cursor to be something else when you're ready for it to be something else.
Okay.
Yep. You basically set constraints up, right? Like if menu option B, then cursor turtle. And then this might be something you play with as well. So I just changed this to be center, which you could play around with. It probably doesn't make sense to do that. You can have, I think it's corner. Oh, or not. How about we just turn that off? Or not. Find and reference. Image mode, corners. I forgot a damn S. Where is it? Corners. Okay, still not working. Basically broke the code here. Using center, using corners. Okay. Oops, I keep opening the wrong thing. Well, I tried to make that helpful. I guess we don't need it. But I think it's still weird. By default, it's center. So how about we do 25, 25? I've broken my noodle. Since cursor to predefined symbol image. Well, it's saying the recommended size for cursor is 16 or 32 pixels, but clearly that doesn't have to be. Horizontal active spot of the cursor. Well, not really sure why this is doing this. Here, let's do this. Nope. Well, I guess that's another problem for another day.
Yeah, I have a good understanding of how to start now.
Okay, that is up. All right, should be able to get through another person or two.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So, Genevieve, how are you doing? You're the next on my alphabetical list.
I'm doing alright. I'm doing some of the art stuff now, just because that's the fun part.
Yep.
I'm a CS major, so I don't foresee having any trouble with any of the coding.
Nice. We will be coming to you. That's just what you want to hear, right? Free labor! No, we should be pretty good. Okay.
Yeah, I've never used processing before, but Java was the first language I learned, and
yeah.
I've used P5.
Yep. Let me take a look one thing for you. Oh, it's already here. Past student projects, processing. Chase. Huh. Let me check my computer for something. Wally. Okay, I found something. Alright, anyway. Okay, so I should have the this uploaded. So yeah, Genevieve, I've got this on the past student example link.
Okay.
Project here by Wally was the student's last name. He was a computer science major as well. He did some kind of complex kind of structuring of code that I still don't understand to this day. So could be something to kind of poke around in and see like what he did. Not sure if it would be helpful or not because I can't really, speculate on how it's working well, but
Yeah.
potentially something to play around with.
All right. Yeah.
Even just different ways he's utilizing his organization or whatnot. Okay, sweet. And then who we have next? Jake Burkett. Calling Jake Burkett.
Hi. I don't know how my mic is on this. How does it sound?
It sounds clearer than anyone else's I've heard so far.
All right, cool. It's a laptop mic, so interesting.
There you go.
Yeah, so my project, I haven't done any coding yet, but I used to be a computer engineering major, so I don't think I'll have too much trouble. I have a pretty good idea of what I'm going to do.
Okay.
It's going to be like the main screen is going to be just like some trees and clouds and a road and stuff, and then as you mouse over stuff, well, there'll be an audio track running in the background. I'm hoping just like with like the sound of birds chirping and leaves rustling and stuff. And then if you mouse over like the cloud, then a plane goes by. And if you mouse over the road, a car will go by, and it all disrupts the sound of nature. Like that's my main idea right now. And then I'm thinking that if you click on the stuff, it might go into like a mini game or something, but I'm not sure yet.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's always good to have like backup additions to play around with, but okay. It sounds plausible to me. All right, there. I will note that there is a way to utilize like video clips. I'm not sure if any of that is pertaining, to what you're wanting to do, but in the sense of like moving, you're talking about like things moving. That could be used. You could even make something. I don't know. Just look like the sky. Like old cartoons, like a character runs from room to room or whatever, and it just on repeat over and over. You can loop video. So I just thought I mentioned because there is references in processing for that.
Yeah, that sounds like it could be something pretty cool to use.
Maybe, yeah. In the past, before that, I had students go through like this long process of building out a GIF and from like a movie clip and saving individual frames and whatever, and then uploading every frame and and like it was a process of building an array. But then we found like you could just implement a movie clip right in there. So
do you have an example of that in the drive?
Of a movie clip.
The GIF being cut up into frames and then used. Do you have an example of that on the drive? Do you know?
Well, I'll take a look here. Multiple image arrays.
Okay. I'll have to download that.
Yep. Cool. All right.
Thank
I'm
you.
checking you off my list too. All right. We still got time. Jake. The other Jake, Fuzak.
Yes, I am here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Cool.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. Hanging in there.
For my project, I kind of wanted to do like a stress relieving game, kind of. So like the first screen, the menu screen would be like a start menu, like, you know, click start, typical with background noise. And then the next clip would be like, I don't know if this is, I mean, it'd probably be too challenging, but the player can upload their own picture of someone's face, right? So, it'd just be like the center of the screen, like an oval, and you pick, whatever, picture you have on you want to use, and you put in the middle, and then on the side of that screen, there's like a couple tools, like a crowbar, a hammer, and a baseball bat. You could beat the person up, just for fun. And then as soon as every time you hit the person, the sound emits along with like a different caption, like "ow" or "that hurt" or something. I don't know. I think that'd be kind of fun.
Okay. Have you coded before?
I have in high school. I made that game where you have the ship on the screen, you have to fire against the enemy alien ships. It was a really old, like, Galaga.
Galaga? Yeah.
Yeah. I did Galaga before.
I see. Mm-hmm. I'm not entirely sure of the process of that. I think in processing, there is an example for camera.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would work.
Let's see. Tools. Is that what you're saying? That they pick their own image first?
Yeah, I mean, if that's too much, then I'll put a face there.
Yeah, I mean, it's giving that much free form availability is, I mean, it could work if you're giving us like instructions, you know, maybe like center your face inside the frame, and then you take a photo or something.
Yeah.
I mean, people could abuse that, I guess, but as long as you're kind of giving a guideline, I guess that's really all you can hope for. But I mean, there's ability to then take a photo using a webcam, assuming everybody has a webcam. And then once you have the photo, you should be able to just place the photo, right? Like wherever you want, right there in the middle, where you've seen your face. So kind of like that process of like a photo booth, right? You see your face in front of you, and it takes a photo, whatever. But then following that, I guess you could always use tools as cursors, and then if you click in a certain spot with a certain cursor, maybe you're just drawing like a transparent image of some kind of like, you know, like a bruise or a cut or something like that. Okay. I mean, it won't fully match the face, you know what I mean? Like you bruise somebody's eye versus like to the side of their face there might be empty space, and you do it there. But I mean, I guess that's one way that could work. I mean, there's probably other ways. That's just like a really simple concept I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll look into doing that.
Yeah, there should be the ability to add a library for camera. And let's see. Looks like there's a bunch, but I don't, I haven't used them. So it could be a matter of too, like seeing which libraries are right here, and then doing a Google search. Maybe there's a YouTube tutorial for it or whatever, a forum that could explain it. So that's one avenue, and then I want to say I had a student that used that processing. I don't know if I remember his name now because it was like 3 or so years ago. I'm gonna look at my computer for a minute and see if I can find it. Watson. May of 18. I'm going to close my video feed. Try to get my computer to go a little quicker over here. I have almost an 11-year-old MacBook Pro as my workhorse over here, so it is slow sometimes. Trying to do other stuff. No, close that. Play this. Plus I'm going to try to utilize the camera, so. Okay. This is video. Not camera. I was searching for video. That was a stupid mistake. Okay. Just this one by the processing foundation.
Okay.
So if you install that, once that's installed, you can literally then just go to the examples tab, and it'll have info here under the contributed libraries. However, it looks like I probably have to restart quickly. At least it should have examples. Crap. Oh, libraries right there. Video, movie, capture. So you could play around with that. I think the student I used might have done a split scan. I just played it, and as you move across the screen, it's capturing like a sliver of your face as you go.
Oh, that's cool.
Or it might have been time displacement, or I don't know. So, yeah, I checked that out. Cool. Does anybody else have any last questions before we end today?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yep, shoot.
Yeah, try to like apply the image as the background. That's, I feel, not work.
Okay. Yeah, I can sit here if you want to hang out just for a few minutes. I'll have you do a screen share.
Yeah, sure.
Yep, if you want to just do a screen share, I could take a look. And then before we dive into that, does anybody else have any other thoughts, questions? Okay, I am available. I told the other class, like my office hours, 5 to 7. So most days I probably, especially not today, because if nobody's gonna need help, I'm gonna start packing stuff up to head out of town. But yeah, if you know you're gonna need help, kind of going forward, just text me. If it's the same day. Otherwise, you could shoot me an email, let me know ahead of time. But yeah, like later today, if you're like, you know what, actually I'm gonna keep working for a little while, see if I can get Bernard's help if I've run into something. Text me or call me, and I'll hop back on and take a look with you. Cool. So yeah. Oops, not that page. Okay, yeah. Wenzo, you can you could share your screen if you'd like.
Are you saying?
It's loading. Okay, yep.
Yeah, here's what I got. And
Yep. So the only thing you messed up on is at the top you have P image, and that's where you're declaring the name, right? So universe. Down in setup, you want to start out by saying the name itself, not IMG.
Oh.
You see on line 5 where it's underlining in red?
Oh yeah, I see.
Yep. So that you want to have that as the name of your image.
Like universe.
Yep, because that's what you named it up top. Yep. And then yep, same thing right there. Yep. Okay. So then the next problem is, see how I was saying at the bottom, null pointer exception? It's because it doesn't know where the image is. So you have to go ahead and drag and drop that image into processing.
Like this?
Yep. And it should say at the bottom, one new file has been added.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And if you go to your project folder, which is somewhere else, it looks like, wherever you have this project 3 saved. Yep. So now go into the date. Yep. Go into data, and there it is. See, it automatically put it in itself into that data folder for you. So now if you go ahead and play that, it should open.
Right.
So are you trying to get this to show up as a background image?
Yeah, like the background.
Okay. Yep, if you want to close that. You could delete the first 2 500s down there on line 6.
Here?
On line 6. Yep.
Okay.
Because the first 2 locations you put are the x coordinates and the y coordinates. Or actually, you need to put instead of. Hang on. Let me think this through. Put 0 0. Put 0 0, and then with height.
0 0.
Comma.
Like this.
Yep. And then try that.
Oh.
Yep.
Wow. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Yep,
I
so
tried like 1,000 times, not working.
yeah, you had a couple little hiccups there. The first thing is the name wasn't correct, and you've seen that it underlined the problem.
When it shows like the right underline is incorrect.
Yeah, it normally means something's typed wrong or it doesn't know what that is. Second thing you ran into there was the image wasn't in, like processing didn't know where that image was. So it always has to be inside the data folder and inside the project folder.
Okay.
Yep. And yeah, if you right click on that image where it says image on line 6, if you right click on where it says image, like the blue, yep,
Yes.
it should say find in reference, right? Yep. And then that way you can get a little bit more info. So for example, you see right there it says syntax. Yep. So it has the option to put an image with 2 extra numbers or 4 extra numbers. And if you scroll down a tiny bit more, it'll tell you what A, B, C, and D are. Yep. So if you ever find something and you're not sure exactly how it's working, you could always, double check the reference. Cool. You have any other questions?
Oh, that's it.
Awesome. All right.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good weekend if I don't see you.
Yeah, you too. Stay safe.